Flotation cost we were discussing. Now, flotation cost means the cost which you incur while you are collecting money from the public through issue of shares or through issue of debentures. So the expenses made in that process, like you will make some expenses for the printing of prospectus. You will be paying some brokerage to the brokers, share brokers, or you will be paying some commission to the underwriters, and many much more expenses will be there. These all expenses are called flotation cost. The cost which is incurred for collection of capital, that is known as flotation cost. Now, according to the sources of finance which you are having, some sources will have higher flotation cost and some sources will have some less flotation cost, and some sources will have very less, almost nominal flotation cost. Like for example, shares will have much higher flotation cost because you have to issue prospectus, you have to do advertisement in different medias, in printing media or in audiovisual media. So much more expenses will be there for the information of the public. Same is the case with debentures also. But if you are opting for bank loan, so bank loan is a process that you have to prepare a file, you have to show there in which project you will be investing, what is the profitability of that project, how much profit you are earning in the current project. So because for collection of money you are making so much expenditure, so that cost is known as flotation cost, and that will also be a factor for deciding whether I should go for debentures or I should go for share capital or I should go for bank loan or I should opt for some other source. Like retained earnings, least flotation cost. Retained earnings is what? It is your profit which you have earned with your hard efforts. So there is no flotation cost involved in that. So means you have to compare the various sources. What is the cost of getting that, getting money from that source? These considerations may also affect the choice between debt and equity has the capital structure, and that's why this factor will also affect your capital structure, designing of your capital structure. Now the next point is risk consideration. So earlier we have also discussed this point that whenever you are increasing your debt, your financial risk, your financial leverage will increase. Business risk depends upon fixed operating costs. Whatever your fixed operating costs are there, like interest, salary, rent, these are your fixed operating costs, which you can't deny on the basis of your profit. That I'm not earning profit, I can't pay it. You can't say that. If you are having employees, you have to pay the salary. If you have borrowed some money, you have to pay the interest on time. If you have any property on rent, you have to pay the rent on time. So these are your fixed operating costs, which you have studied in economics also as fixed costs. Higher fixed operating costs result in higher business risk and vice versa. So this is a very important factor in managing the business, that you have to keep your fixed cost at minimum possible. then your business will be having the least risk, because variable cost is the thing that you will be able to manage according to your performance. Suppose you are producing 100 units per day, so the cost will be also according to the 100 units per day, and your profit will be easily maintained. But the fixed cost will trouble you, and it will absorb your profits. It will absorb your profits. So now, if your firm's business risk is lower, now how the business risk will be lower? If your fixed operating costs are not very high, then you can think about that I can opt for debt. If your fixed operating costs are not that much high, there is a possibility of increasing your fixed cost because you are having that enough profit. So then you can think upon acquiring capital through debt. Otherwise, if your business is already very high, you are having very high fixed operating costs, then you don't have any margin for acquiring new debt. So this point is clear. What is risk consideration? Okay. So now next is flexibility. Next point is flexibility. Now flexibility for what? So flexibility is regarding that I should have some space for taking debt. Suppose I am earning rupees 200. I am giving a very simple example. Suppose I am earning rupees 200 and my daily expenses are about rupees 80. And I want to have a saving of rupees 80 per day. Again, I am repeating, I am earning rupees 200 per day. My daily expenses are rupees 80. And I also want to save rupees 80 per day. Then how much income I left with for spending? How much amount is left with me for spending? I am looking, those are answering. Yes, rupees 40. So I have a flexibility that I can increase my expenditure up to rupees 40 also. So now if suppose I want to take a loan and the rate of interest on loan is suppose 10%, then how much loan I can borrow? If I can spend only rupees 40, not more than that, and the rate of interest is 10%, then how much I can borrow? It will be 400. It will be 400. So I can borrow, it is my borrowing capacity that I can take further loan of rupees 400 only. So that much is flexibility. That is called flexibility, that I should have some gap in my borrowing capacity for emergency purposes. Now see what it is written here. If a firm uses its debt potential to the full, आपकी जितनी capacity है, whatever the capacity you are having, you have taken that all loan. Now you don't have much more space for taking any loan. You don't have any further capacity for that. You have utilized for your full potential for that. Then you will not be able to take further debt at the time of need. So you should keep some gap. Suppose you are having a borrowing capacity of rupees 100, then you should borrow only 60 to 70% of that. You have to, you should not borrow the 100 rupees in one go. You should keep a margin, you should keep a gap for further taking of debt at the time of emergency or at the time of some need. Is it clear now what is flexibility? Now coming to the control. So control means debt normally does not cause dilution of control. Obviously, who are the owners of the business? Shareholders are the owners of the business. So more and more the owners will be, the control will get diluted. Suppose there are 3 partners in the business. The control is with the 3 partners. Now suppose you have admitted one more partner. So now the owners are 4. So the 4th one will also be having some power in the business. The voting power of these 3 partners will get reduced. So the control will get diluted, as if you will be increasing the number of members or partners in your business. So same is the case with the company also. If you are issuing shares, your control will get diluted, your control will get reduced over the company. But if you are issuing debt because they are not participating in decision making for the companies, so that's why your control will not get diluted. So you have to think whether we want to dilute our control. Are we ready to dilute our control over the company, or are we not ready for that? If I am not ready for diluting our control and I have some borrowing capacity, I can increase my business operating risk. So then that means that I can go for debt. Otherwise, I will not be selecting the debt. Then I will be going for shares. Regulatory framework. Now, there are some SEBI guidelines. Securities Exchange Board of India, they have issued some guidelines for issue of shares and debentures. And whatever the mode you are selecting, you have to complete some regulatory framework. So raising funds from banks and other financial institutions require fulfillment of other norms. Means if you want to issue shares or debentures, you have to follow the SEBI norms. If suppose you want to take bank loan, there are some other norms in the market for that. The relative ease with which these norms can be met or the procedures completed may also have a bearing upon the choice of the source of finance. Now suppose I don't want to take that much headache, like I don't want to go to the share market, or I don't want to fulfill all the formalities which have been laid down by SEBI. I want very less work in very less time, and I should get the money. Then I will prefer the bank loan. I will prepare a simple file with the help of a chartered accountant. I will put that file on the table of the bank manager, asking him for the approval of the loan. He will ask for the security. I will furnish the security, and within 7 to 10 days, possibly I will be getting the loan. So there are some very less technicalities, some least technicalities in comparison to the issue of shares or debentures. But if you are opting for shares and debentures, there are much technicalities in that process. So you have to be very careful in that whole process. Like minimum subscription is there, security is there, then filing of prospectus is there, procedure of allotment is there. So many issues are there. So you have to see that whether you want to get involved in that regulatory framework or you want to avoid that. So which medium will be suitable for you as per your need, you have to select that. If we find investors without help of share market, see, if we find the investors without help of share market, that is also good. That is private placement of shares. You can also go for that. If you are thinking that yes, it will be enough for me and it will be working for me, then it's good. You can go for that. Stock market conditions. Now, when the share market rises, generally the sentiment of the public is good. Each and everyone start thinking positively. So, in that mood, what happens if the share cost is suppose rupees 100? And if you are feeling that this share will be profitable for me, so then you will be ready to pay even 120 for that share. However, it is costing rupees 100, but because your mindset is saying that it is much profitable, more than 20 rupees profit it will be giving in me in future. So you are ready to pay rupees 20 more also for that. So when the market is bullish, the mindset is different. You are ready to pay much higher price also. So at that time, if you bring your IPO, if you are issuing your shares, at that time you will get good capital for your company and premium also. But if the market is bearish, then the sentiment of the public is not that much good. Then they will be, if the price is 100, they will be ready to pay only 50-60 rupees for the share, because the image is of profitability is very low. So during a bearish phase, a company may find raising of equity capital more difficult, and it may opt for debt. So if the market is bullish, then you can opt for equity shares or preference shares. But if the market is bearish, means it is going down, so then you have to opt for debt, because at that time you will not be able to collect that much capital. Maybe you are even not reaching to the level of minimum subscription. Next factor is capital structure of other companies. Now suppose you can compare like Maruti Suzuki, Tata Motors, Hyundai Motors. There are 4 or 5 companies. Ashok Leyland. Now, if suppose you are deciding your capital structure should have 60% debt and 40% equity share capital. Suppose you have decided for yourself. Now, how you will come to know that I am going on the right track? You will compare your capital structure with your competitors. Suppose now Tata Motors is having 70% debt and 30% equity shares. Now suppose you find in Hyundai Motors 65% debt and 35% equity shares. So that way you will be able to compare that, yes, I am also planning in the same manner and I am going on the right track. So what is the capital structure of your competitors? That will also matter, because it will also be a factor in deciding whether I should go for debt or I should raise funds through equity shares or preference shares. The management must know what the industry norms are, whether they are following them or deviating from them. Adequate justification must be there in both cases. Now, if suppose I am not following that norm, 60-40 norm I am not following, I am ready for 50-50, or I am comfortable with reverse 40-60. So I should have a justification for my decision, why I am not going with the industry norm or why I am going with the industry norm. In both situations, there should be some justification that why I am deciding that much capital structure, what combination I have decided for myself, is it justifiable, is it proper. So now this topic we have completed, factors affecting capital structure decision. So I hope it is clear to all of you. If any queries there, you can ask me. If it is clear, then put the message. If you will make a list of all the factors affecting for different topics, you will find some common points are there, like cash flow is a common point in almost all the topics. Suppose